Hey, good morning. Welcome back. Great to see you. Hope you had an awesome winter break. We are back at it. We're going to start our last unit. We're going to get into the Middle Ages and medieval times. We're going to finish up with an open-ended final project. I'm really looking forward to finishing up this semester with you. And we want to get started by going into the Middle Ages. And we're going to talk about a concept today called feudalism. So before we do that, understand this. As Rome is kind of falling apart. We're starting to see other areas of Europe that are starting to be dominated and taken over by other groups. And one of these groups we're going to open up with today, you guys are probably very familiar with. Okay? So, from about 800 to 1000 AD, invasions are going to start taking place all across Europe. Muslim invaders are going to seize Sicily. The Magyar invaders are going to sack locations in the east. And then in the north, we have a very fearsome group of individuals known as the Vikings. Okay, the Vikings are going to set sail from an area known as Scandinavia. All right, the Vikings were a Germanic people who were also known as Norsemen. Okay, they worshipped their own gods and took pride in nicknames like Eric Bloodaxe and Thorfinn Skullsplitter. Okay, the Vikings carried out raids at a terrifying speed. Okay, Vikings were well equipped with sword and shield. Okay, they would land on a beach, they would attack, they would pillage, they would then head back out to sea. Okay, the Viking longboat could carry up to 300 warriors and was perfect for carrying out the raids. Okay, so you would start seeing a lot of these attacks throughout Europe, and again, it's a very quick, very determined raid, which was incredibly deadly and also very destructive. All right. Now, the Vikings were not only warriors, okay, but they were traders, they were farmers, they were also explorers. All right. They ventured far beyond Western Europe as well. They went to Russia, they went to Constantinople, and even parts of the New World in North America. All right. Leif Erikson, all right, is credited with being the first to actually reach North America. He had reached North America 500 years before Columbus. Okay. As more and more Vikings start to accept Christianity, their raids began to dwindle. So their gods that they prayed to, all of a sudden, it's starting to be infused with Christianity. That dynamic is starting to change. Okay, so what happens is Vikings are going to take more of a farming, more of an agricultural approach in their native Scandinavia. As a result, fewer Vikings adopted the role of being a seafaring warrior. Okay, so over time, they became less deadly. All right, so you can see there's a really interesting and intricate map that has the Viking raids and conquests detailed. You see it up all the way into Iceland. You see it into the Irish kingdoms. You see it into places all along the current United Kingdom. All right, even into areas of France. It's just a very fascinating group of people, and their conquests really were highly notable. A couple years ago, for my 30th birthday, I went to Dublin, went to Ireland, and they've got entire libraries and histories based on some of the Viking conquests that occurred in Ireland. Now, we're going to get into this concept of feudalism. Okay, so the worst years of the invaders basically span from the year 850 to 950. In this time, many rulers established a new system of governing and landholding, which is known as feudalism. Okay, this is a similar system that had existed in China and Japan for generations. Okay, the system is based on rights and obligations. All right, in exchange for military protection and other services, a lord or landowner would grant what we call a fief. Okay, the fief is essentially a state of land. It's a plot of land. Okay, different fiefs, different sizes, but it's a plot of land. Okay, now the person receiving that fief is known as the vassal. Okay, now there's a feudal pyramid. It's a very strict pyramid. We'll talk about it. The structure of feudal society is, again, it's a pyramid-like structure. At the peak, you have the local king, all right, the reigning king that's in charge. Then you've got the wealthy vassals. Okay, these are the landowners. And then serving the vassals, you have the knights. We're going to talk more about knights and knighthood in our next discussion. But again, knights are mounted horsemen who pledge to defend the lord's lands in exchange for land themselves. So they're going to honor, they're going to respect their lord and their landlord, and they're going to get land in return. Now, at the bottom of the pyramid were the peasants. Okay, these people did not own land and did all the work on the fields. Okay, So here's our structure. You've got the king at the top. The king provides the fief. The lords or the vassals are going to provide loyalty and military aid. All right, you've got an exchange of situations here. You've got the knights beneath the lords, and at the very bottom, you have the peasants, or also what we call the serfs. Okay, so a lot of medieval writers kind of broke up the feudal society into three main classes. Okay, these three groups define the feudal system. Those who fought, so those fighters are your nobles and your knights. Those who prayed, so you have men and women of the church, and then those who worked, and those were your peasants. Okay, most people stayed within their social class their entire lives. All right, now the peasants are going to make up a majority of the populations in the medieval town. Okay, now understand this: life on the manor, and basically what we look at when we talk about a manor is being the lord's estate. So that landlord, that person that controls all that land, is known as the manor. Okay, this is the basic economic arrangement. The lord would set the rules out for the serfs, or the peasants. Serfs were workers who could not lawfully leave the place they were born. Okay, lords could not buy or sell them, however. Okay, so they're not technically slaves. All right, peasants rarely traveled more than 25 miles, and their lives were very, very difficult on the fields. Punishment for crimes was severe. Living conditions were horrendous. A lot of times, they're living in very small quarters with tons of other peasants. You can imagine that the hygiene, that the filth is everywhere from these folks, and basically a lot of these peasants are going to own what we call tithes. Okay, the tithes, these are taxes that were levied by the church. So the church would collect all the taxes from all these local landlords. The peasants would constantly have to pay these taxes. Peasants worked all day long. They had little to no rights and could not move up in the social pyramid. So they are stuck for their entire lives. They're going to have children. Those children are going to be stuck their entire lives at the bottom of this society. Okay? Now, many peasants accepted their fate and became very devout in a Christian faith. So they accepted their role. They understood what their role was in society, and you didn't really see too much resistance. Okay? Now, there's a really good map. You take a look at it, which really kind of depicts our medieval town. I want you guys to kind of look at it, understand it, but it is the representation of what the manor was like and what these medieval towns were like during the Middle Ages. Okay? Hey, that's our opening discussion. We're going to go into chivalry next, but I do appreciate it. It's good to be back, and we've got a final project to work on, which I'm excited about. But I hope you guys have a great day. Take care of yourselves, and have a great day.